Hello, I'm Dan Mendoza, Acadia.
I'm Rosemary Herron.
And I'm Sha Upshaw.
And we are the makers. And today we're here to talk about John McCulloch of United Beef Packers, who needs to make a moral decision.
Now, right into the problem that John faces. He's the new assistant general manager at the Blue River processing plant for UBP and is at a loss for the situation happening currently, as there is a lack of sanitation at the plant, exploitation of immigrant workers, the healthcare that they are forced into, and the poor working conditions. To top it off, Greg Kramer, who is the general manager, has recently emailed McCulloch telling him to fire an injured worker named Bobby Vasquez. John must now decide what to do, if he will follow his personal values or his professional ones. Now straight into the situation analysis.
So in terms of ownership and management, as mentioned earlier, John McCulloch is the new assistant general manager at the Blue River plant at United Beef Packers. His boss is Greg Kramer, who is the general manager of the United Beef Packers Blue River plant. One thing that involves them and their managing styles is that they do tend to butt heads, as Kramer is more set on making the meat and when it has to be produced and how much is produced, whereas John McCulloch is used to working with people and making sure everyone's happy and safe in their work environment.
As for the current strategy, UP currently mainly employs immigrants, as it allows for low wages, little to no benefits, and easy replacement. As if one worker was labeled unfit to work or unproductive, a manager can just fire him or blackmail him that he is an illegal immigrant and hire a new immigrant for low wages. Currently, the workers at UBP endure injuries such as infections, amputations, and chemical burns 75 times more than the national average. Due to the increasing demand of beef in America, the workers need to work faster with the unsafe process, which increase the rate of injury. The old-fashioned cheap process comes at a cost, however, because they had to issue a national recall of beef because it was infected and they were afraid of bad press, and which decreased their profits substantially. These terrible conditions contradict John's idea of a safe environment, as in the past he has enjoyed working with friendly people in a positive environment, and therefore he's a little unsettled about the unfair way the workers are being treated at UBP. His mission involves working in a safe and uplifting place.
Now into an analysis of the industry and the competition. United Beef Packers compete in the highly competitive beef packing industry in America. Last year alone, the big four companies had produced 82% of all beef sold in America. But the beef consumption in America continues to rise annually. And a trend in the beef packing industry is that to lower expenses, companies will hire immigrants, so they're legal or illegal immigrants.
So with all this being said, John McCulloch does need to be successful when he is making his decision. So some of the key success factors for John McCulloch is if he's morally okay with the decision that he is making. Also, if he's able to keep working. This is whether or not it happens at United Beef Packers or anywhere else. And with this, he also needs to be able to support his family, as it's something that he has mentioned earlier that he does truly care about.
Looking into the SWOT analysis, John's strengths include his high managerial position, his good morality, that he cares about a safe work environment, and his work experience. His weaknesses is that he is conflicted in his workplace and he doesn't know if he wants to quit or continue working in the place. His opportunities is that he has evidence about how mistreated the workers are. And for the threats, he may get fired, he may get Bobby Vasquez fired, and it also includes health risks by continuing to work in UBP, as he currently is diagnosed with lack of sleep, decrease in appetite, and stress disorders. And financially, he also has to support his family, and if he quits, he won't be able to do so.
Alright, so now John McCulloch is faced with the many options that he has to choose from. The first one we have is a whistleblower. The whistleblower involves him not firing Bobby Vasquez, and him actually calling the authorities, which would be OSHA, and they would take it into consideration to make an investigation that is happening at UBP. This would also involve him being able to potentially keep his job.
As for the pros, the workers will be safe, the authorities will be involved, and John will be protected by the law, by the Whistleblower Act, Protective Act in Nebraska, and he will be protected from getting fired or harassed in the workplace. He also believes this is the morally right thing to do. And for cons, he may face retaliation from his employers. This means that the employers in the future, he may avoid hiring him completely. And it also takes time for the authorities to investigate this case. And it may also cause hostility in the workplace.
On to our second option, which would be quitting. He would no longer be the assistant manager at the plant. He would not have to fire Bobby Vasquez, and McCulloch would no longer have a job. For the pros, he would be disassociated with the unethical practices that happen within the plant. He would not feel guilty about firing injured workers. Cons, Bobby would still lose his job. Workers would still have to work in unsafe environments. He would not receive any pay and benefits, and he will no longer have money to support his family with.
The third option is refusing to fire. He will be refusing to fire Vasquez, and it might risk his employment as he is not following the orders from his boss. But he could potentially stay at the plant, but he may endure harassment from his employees. For the pros, he will not feel guilty for firing as he refused to fire Bobby Vasquez. However, John, he will be fired. He may be fired, and he will not receive benefits from the unemployment laws in Nebraska, and he may endure harassment and hostility at work.
Moving into our fourth option is unionizing the workers, and this entails him also not firing Bobby Vasquez. This actually means he would go back to the workplace and he would gather up all the workers and they would decide to protest for better benefits, more safety, more care in their workplace. Now, the pros that have to go with this is that they might be able to get more wages, more safety, and more security, but there are many, many cons that do come with this situation. The risk of workers losing their employment is very possible because in the past, UBP has just decided to fire them and replace them, so they're not afraid to do that again. And all workers need to agree. So with something like this, it cannot be half and half, it has to be all together for it to be executed properly. And while they are protesting, they will not be getting the pay that they need, so this will be even worse than them just staying where they are now. And it's also difficult to achieve as it could potentially fall through very easily.
On to our fifth and final option, status quo. If we would agree with the following firing of Bobby Vasquez, McCulloch would not speak up about any of the unethical issues happening within the plant.
For the pros and cons for the status quo, John will be able to keep his job as he is following orders from his boss. He'll be also loyal to the company. However, he will have to fire Bobby Vasquez, which he knows it is immoral, and he will have to live with the guilt for the rest of his life. He may also lose the friendship with Bobby Vasquez that he developed, and he may also endure hostility at work. And since he is staying at work, he may also have health risks, which may end up to his death.
Now, with all these options into place, we have made a carefully selected decision criteria that affects John McCulloch in every situation.
First off is morality. McCulloch has a strong moral values, and in terms of proper treatment for the employees. This will be measured on a scale of -1 to 1, 1 being inclined with McCulloch's morals, and -1 going against. For an option to be viable, it must score at least 0 in this category.
Our next decision criteria is time to see a positive change. So if McCulloch does want to keep working at the firm, he needs to be able to see a positive change happen because his morals are at stake. This also has to be measured in the amount of days it takes for him to see this positive change if he does choose to keep working there. And for us, in order for an option to be viable, it must take no longer than 7 days for him to see the positive change in the workplace.
Job termination is a really important criteria for John, as he only wants a minimum amount of individuals to lose their jobs. And this will be measured by how many individuals are unemployed by the end of the decision. And for an option to be viable, it must result in no more than one person losing their job.
And now for family support. In some of the options, it is possible that McCulloch will not be able to support his family. This is measured on whether or not he'll be able to keep his jobs and benefits in a yes, no, maybe category. The option must be yes for it to be viable.
So now we have a look at our evaluation matrix. So we've looked at every single option, we've calculated what they rank on each exact decision criteria. So starting off, we have whistleblower, and obviously that would rank very, very high in morality, as he'd be doing the right thing, he'd be turning in the management that is treating the workers unethically. And also for time to see a positive change, this option would happen very quickly, as all you would have to do is just call the authorities, OSHA would come into place and start the investigation. In terms of job termination, with the Whistleblower Act, everyone's protected with benefits and they would all keep their jobs or get moved to a different placement so they'd be safe. And with this obviously means that he would be able to support his family no matter what.
Now for quitting. The morality is neutral, as he would no longer be affiliated with the plant and would have to deal with any of the unethical issues facing him. The time to experience a positive change is that there wouldn't be one, as he would no longer be working there and could no longer affect what's going on. Job termination would be 2, as McCulloch would be leaving the plant but no longer be working there, but Bobby Vasquez would still be fired. Family support would be a no, because he would no longer have the job and receive any pay or benefits.
Morality rates really high for refusal to fire, as he refuses to fire Vasquez, which he believes is the right moral thing to do. The time to experience positive change will take 1 day, as John can contact the officials, the executives, or his boss in at least a day. For job termination, this may result in John being fired as he did not follow his boss's orders, and Boy Vasquez may in the end become fired as well. For family support, if John indeed does get fired, he will no longer be able to support his family financially.
Unionizing the workers is also one that ranks very high in morality, as he would be gathering them all up and they would all be protesting together to make sure that UBP has a better work environment for everyone. However, this option does take longer, as it is hard to gather everyone to make sure they're on the same page, as we mentioned earlier. For this to be an effective option, it needs to be executed properly, and that is very unlikely in this situation. This also goes along with job termination. It would be 8,200 people, as in the past when UBP has fired a bunch of people who tried to unionize. So we're looking back in the past and we can see that they would do that again. In terms of family support, we cannot say for certain that John McCulloch would be able to get his job, because he could get fired along with everyone else and be stuck and not be able to support his family.
Finally, status quo would be a -1 on the morality chart, as he would be forced to fire Bobby Vasquez, which he knows he does not want to do. For a time to experience a positive change is that there wouldn't be one, as he would no longer attempt to have any influence in the plant and change how the workers are treated. Job termination would be 1, as he would still be forced to fire Bobby Vasquez. Family support, it would be a yes in this category, as he would continue to work there and receive pay and benefits.
So as we made our evaluation matrix, we took a lot of calculations to do this, and we explained them earlier, but here they are right now, taking into consideration how we ranked every single one that we did. And with all that being said, we have chosen together that whistleblowing is the best option for John McCulloch. And we say this because when he's doing this, he will feel morally right no matter what he's doing, because he's turning in those who are treating the workers poorly, which he feels uncomfortable about. This is also something that could happen very quickly, as it's something that he wants to see change happen in the shortest amount of time possible. This option also means that he would earn benefits and be able to support his family.
Now to the implementation plan. We would contact the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA. He would hire a whistleblower lawyer to help build a case against UBP. He would finish recording all the evidence that he can about UBP. After that, he would start an investigation with everything that UBP is doing that is not the code with OSHA. UBP would then file a court or a lawsuit against UBP, and they would have to follow regulations that were set by the court afterward.
As for the Gantt chart, John will at most take 1 day to contact OSHA. He will then have to hire a whistleblower lawyer, which may take 7 days, up to 7 days. He will then have to file in all the evidence. Since the time is scarce, he will have to take 2 weeks for this process. The police and the lawyer will then start the investigation. This may take at least 2 months. After concluding the investigation, they may go to court at approximately November 10th, and this process may take at least 6 months. These are our references. Any questions?